Let's talk about service pistol competition. The Civilian Marksmanship Program manages the service pistol competitions in the United States. As a shooter, you have two choices. You have the 1911 service pistol as an option as a competitor, or you have the Beretta 92 as an option. This pistol is the pistol that's currently being used by the U.S. Armed Forces as its sidearm. Let's talk about the 1911. This is a semi-automatic design. It has a floating barrel. The ergonomics that John Browning designed by most shooters, I myself included, almost feel they're perfect. It's a perfect grip. It feels just right in the hand. The distance of the trigger is actually just far enough apart so the pad of your finger or the tip of your finger fits on there nicely. It's just a very nice feeling pistol. This pistol is absolute mechanical genius. The great thing about this pistol is if you have an excellent gunsmith, they can accurize this pistol to make it incredibly accurate. It's a reliable platform all around. There's a reason it's been around for over 100 years. This pistol can be extremely accurate in service pistol. It can easily hold the X-ring at 50 yards. The X-ring at 50 yards in service pistol competition or bullseye is about 1.5 inches. That means that this pistol can shoot 10 shots at 50 yards in a group about that big. Pretty amazing and pretty impressive, figuring that it's shooting a very large ball bullet. Now, a quick look at the 92. The 92 is a much different design. This pistol is designed on an aluminum slide and aluminum frame. This pistol is very familiar to most people because it's the pistol that's usually used in most movies because it shoots blanks very reliably. So a lot of people are used to seeing this. Some of the big differences between this pistol and the 1911 is the grip is very thick because of the high magazine capacity, and it's also a slightly different angle than the 1911. You can see that as far as the trigger action, it's a double action trigger. It can actually be shot as double action, or you can cock it and shoot it as single action. It took several years of development for the 92 to become competitive in service pistol matches. One of its problems was its ability to shoot accurately at 50 yards. Another problem is the ability to have a trigger that's reliable and a good crisp trigger or a good match trigger. But over time it's been developed. Now, one of the great things that allowed the 92 to be more accurate is they allowed it to start reloading different ball bullets for 50 yards. Now when they did that, it also allowed for the 45 shooters to reload their ball bullets as well. By reloading the ball ammo, it sort of changed the rules somewhat from what had been service pistol shooting for decades and decades and decades. Now let's talk about the trigger on the 92. The trigger on the 92 is quite a bit different design. It's a pivot design, and it actually pivots from the top, and it's a arch trigger that has a very large curve in it. Also, if it's in single or double stage, means the trigger's in a very different place. For instance, it's in single stage now, the trigger's very far back toward the frame. If I pull the trigger, you can see that it resets very far forward. This is kind of awkward when you're shooting the gun. Even though all your shots will be in single stage, it makes you overwrap because the trigger sits back so far to the frame, and that's sometimes problematic for people trying to learn how to shoot this pistol. Another issue with the 92 Beretta's trigger is the fact that you have very little options of what you can do with it. Most of these guns are going to be set up with a very crisp trigger, and that's pretty much all you get with it. There's a few guys that know how to put a roll on it if you prefer that, but for the most part, you're going to have a very crisp trigger. If you happen to have one of these as a stock pistol, I've never picked up a stock Beretta that had a good trigger. So that's one thing you're going to must always have to accept is it's going to have a really kind of crappy trigger, or you're going to have to get something done on that trigger to make it a little more competitive for you when you get to the firing line. Let's talk about the actual ammo that each of these pistols shoots for a minute. Basically, we're looking at the 45 230 grain ball ammo, and we're looking at the 115 to 124 grain ball ammo for the 9mm. Now when you look at these side by side, you would obviously think that the 45 has a much bigger oomph, the bigger recoil than the 9mm, and that is technically true. But the reality is, because the rules of the CMP have been changed, you can now download the 45, and what a lot of shooters do is they actually take a 45 cartridge and they take a 230 grain ball load with less powder for the 25-yard line, and then they have a hotter load for the 50-yard line, which makes it a little more accurate or more reliable on the long line. This can be very accurate. The 9mm, you don't have that flexibility. Typically, you've got to basically run this bullet hot. It has to probably be over 1,100 feet a second, and it has to basically be in 115 to 124 grain ball configuration. Now this can be very accurate, but you have a much snappier recoil than you do with the 45, and especially if you download it where you have a softer recoil. One year at Camp Perry, I walked up and down the line to try to see who was shooting what, and I noticed most guys were shooting and their arms would snap up above their shoulders, and I thought those must be guys shooting 45. Well, Actually, it was guys shooting 9mm. What basically I was seeing was all the guys shooting 45 had a softer load at the short line, and then the 9mm snapped higher. So really, there's not as big a recoil advantage as you would think shooting a 9mm. It's more maybe mental perception than it is actual physics. By far, in my opinion, the 45 cartridge is probably the easiest cartridge to reload for. It's very friendly to different powder combinations, different bullets, different crimps, different seating depths, different primers, etc. The 9mm was a little more challenging to figure out. The AMU has a lot of data out there that they've developed. That's a good starting point, but there's still the issue that you have to basically find what works for your pistol if you're shooting a 9, a 92, and go with that data. There'll be a little bit of experimentation for you to get the right setup for you. So which of these pistols is the right choice for you? Although the Beretta 92 is becoming more popular on the firing line, there's a few reasons I think it's probably not the best choice for new or intermediate shooters. First of all, there's not very many people that really know how to build this pistol that can make it accurate and have longevity. You want a gun that's going to be accurate over the life of your shooting career. These guns are finicky, they're difficult to work on, and they take a lot of machining time to build correctly. There's just not many folks that know how to do that, in my opinion. One of the other issues with the 92 is that I don't believe it's a very good tool for beginning shooters. I know in my personal experience, and a lot of my friends that are national champions and very accomplished shooters, we all agree on this. When you're shooting the 92 and you make a bad shot and you go, that might be a little bit out, it might be like a 9. It ends up being out of the black or way out of the black. It's a very unforgiving pistol for a novice, and even really accomplished shooters can struggle on days with this gun. For whatever reason, the 1911 is just friendlier to shoot. It just seems more forgiving. There's been many times that you'll shoot and you'll say, wow, I think that was a little bit wide. And it's still a wide 10, but not out of the black. So I think for a novice or a beginning shooter, this pistol is a much better choice for someone starting to get into service pistol shooting. I hope this comparison between the 92 and the 1911 service pistols has been helpful. Whichever platform you choose, get out there on the firing line, get you a box of ammo, and start putting up some scores and earning those leg points. I'll look forward to seeing you on the range. Thanks, and hold 'em hard.